Coming off the heels of UFC 322, that being in Madison Square Garden, and also that being also as well in New York City, we have another looking up to the welterweight division in this co-main event, that being in the Qatar card, that being a UFC fight night that we have headlining now by Arman Sarukian versus Dan Hooker, to be able to see who is probably going to be the next number one contender in the lightweight division. Also, as well as I mentioned beforehand, the welterweight division, we have Garry going against Belal Muhammad. But starting off this card, we got two black guys. Excuse me, not two black guys, one black guy. That being Denzel Freeman versus Marek Buljo. They look like black guys because obviously their picture is not pictured above, because these guys are making both the UFC debut, and Marek Buljo is making his UFC debut, and while he is undefeated so far. He's won every single fight by finish, most of it being by submission. He has a few ground and pound finishes on the ground as well, so he is a threat, especially in this heavyweight division, on the ground whatsoever. And Denzel Freeman has been in the PFL beforehand, and as well, he has a couple of these last two fights he has won by finish. One of them coming against Steven Alspin, who's recently just got a contract in the UFC as of right now, getting that nice KO victory for himself in the Dana White Contender Series. This one is, Freeman did beat Alspin, who is contracted now in the UFC. But Marek, if he's able to get things to the ground, I think that it is going to be a long night for Freeman, or a short one if Marek is going to be able to get a finish. And that's something that we really don't are able to see, especially in the heavyweight division, with a lot of guys usually wanting to be able to keep things on the feet. Getting things on the ground is definitely something new to be able to see with the big guys. Tough one. I mean, Freeman has been on a decent promotion. It could really go either way. I'm going to go with Marek Buljo, or Budlow, to be able to get a decision, or if not, I'm going to go with submission victory over Denzel Freeman. And moving it up the card, and we got Nicholas Dalby making his return against a guy without another picture here and above, that being Sagid Izagakmayev. I mean, what a damn name these guys have. But Nicholas Dalby coming off that KO loss against Randy Brown, that highlight reel KO for Randy Brown over Nicholas Dalby. Before that, he had that split decision loss to Renat Fakhratinov. A bit of a step down in terms of competition for Nicholas Dalby. Dalby, while he is a veteran, he's been in there for quite some time. He's been there and done that. He's fraud checked a lot of people and was on a pretty decent win streak before that loss against Renat. This guy, Sagid, hasn't fought in about 3 years, and especially in an MMA fight. He's been in one championship before. He has a lot of victories on his resume, but a lot of those victories actually have been coming off by submissions and things coming over as well. I mean, this is Nicholas Dalby's test to be able to see if he's really washed, he's over the hump. I mean, going against a guy that hasn't fought in about 3 years, I think this should be a layup for Nicholas Dalby, but if not, I think it's time to call it a career, if we're being quite honest. So I'm going to go with Nicholas Dalby on this one over Sagid, but I wouldn't be surprised if Father Time is knocking at his door, and that rabbit with that clock is definitely staring at Nicholas Dalby right in his eyes. And now moving up the card, and we got Nurullo Alaev versus Shamrock. Alaev is 2-0 so far in the UFC. His last win was over Joe Selecki, and really, if you're looking at the lightweight division, who hasn't beat Joe Selecki as of right now, for being quite honest. And Shamrock is making his UFC debut. He has a lot of wins coming off by submission, so I don't think that Alaev, coming with that brother back style, background with the grappling and wrestling, is going to be super effective for him, because if thing goes to the ground, Shamrock is definitely going to be very comfortable, especially with submissions off of his back. I'm actually going to go with Shamrock on this one, even despite Alaev having the UFC experience, being on a bigger stage, and having wins over guys that has been in the UFC. He's been quite unimpressive, and I'm going to go with the new guy making his debut with a win. And moving up the card, we got Ismail Nurdavayev versus Ryan Loder. Oh, this one's an absolute banger. Am I right, guys? Ryan Loder coming off that KO loss against Azamat Bakoyev. But before that, I did believe that he got a win over... this guy recently just fought in one of the UFC fight nights against Jackson McVeigh. I'm losing his name as of right now. Jesus Christ. But whatever. I know he beat him beforehand. Ryan Loder has had some KO victories before in his resume. Ismail Narvaev, he's coming off that loss against Young Jung Park, where it was kind of competitive, but not really. Young Jung Park was just doing his thing in there and really just getting the better of Nurdayev. I'm going to go with Ryan Loder on this one. I think he has more impressive wins. I think he has actual wins in the UFC. I don't think Nurdayev actually has a win so far in the UFC. And if he does have a win in the UFC, I don't think that it's anything to take of note, if we're being quite honest. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Ryan Loder on this one, probably by knockout. And moving up the card now, we got a banger. And trust me, I know bangers. Beksak Almakan versus Alexandre Tuporia. This one it really can go either way. Literally right down the middle. Obviously, I think Tuporia is going to be going in there as the odds-on favorite. Having his UFC debut win, coming over Colby Thickness, showing off that same similar style as his brother, who is, as of right now, a double champ or has been a double champ, now reigning over the lightweight division, that being Ilia Topuria. Really having that, boxing heavy, coming in forward, using combinations, using that technique and that style with the hands is just something completely different. But something that is a little bit different from Alexandre, from Ilia, is that Alexandre kind of does lean a little bit more into his grappling, and that's something that they definitely used to his effect against Colby Thickness. More to his advantage was that wrestling advantage. And with Beksak, it really, yeah, he did come off that win and having a KO win over Brad Katona. So definitely with him on the feet, there's something that you need to be able to worry about. And for Alexandre, this is definitely a really big step up, especially from guys that he was supposed to fight, that being Cody Haddon and Colby Thickness, who is coming off wins, and they're being very, comp right now in the unranked sphere of the bantamweight division as of right now. But Beksak is, I think, a real true test for Alexandre to really see where he's at, to be able to get over that real test, to be able to show that he is one of the best bantamweights in this division right now. Even if Beksak is an unranked guy, Beksak can be able to give a lot of problems on the feet to Alexandre, and not only that, on the ground as well. He's no pushover. He really gave Umar Nurmagomedov a run for his money. While Umar did eventually get the decision win over Beksak, he really had to work to be able to get that victory over him. I'm going to go with Alexandre Tuporia, but I wouldn't be surprised if Beksak was going to be able to get on top on this one, especially just using the experience, and especially coming off a loss and knowing to be able to get that loss and using that experience against a guy like Umar Nurmagomedov, and coming out on top on that type of, loss that he had so far in his career. But I'm going to go with Alexandre Tuporia. I believe in the hype. I believe in the guy. I believe in the name. And, now moving up the card, and we got another banger, this one being a flyweight banger. Tagir Ulanbekov versus Kyoji Horiguchi. This matchup was supposed to take place, I don't remember when, but I know it was supposed to take place. That being the first fight for Horiguchi to be able to come back in his UFC return. And he's been bouncing all over the place since his departure from the UFC. He's been in the PFL, has been in Bellator, has lost, has won, has been in Risen, has been on, as of recently, a 5-fight win streak. Just recently dropped the belt that he had over there in Risen, and was obviously a huge star, similar likely to Kaya Sakura, who didn't really have the same type of explosiveness and dynamicism that he was displaying over there in Rizin, being that champion, getting those knockouts, showing off his striking and his ability. Having that loss against Pantoja is nothing to be able to scoff at, but also the way that he looked in that loss against Tim Elliott wasn't the best, and Horiguchi is also getting older in his age as well, but still is training in a great team. I believe he's training with American Top Team. So he's been around Pantoja. He's been around those guys. He's still been training and keeping himself up to date in terms of keeping himself in his prime. And going against a guy like Tagir Ulanbekov, who I think has the size advantage, the physical advantage, having that brother style, training with those guys like Khabib, and keeping up to date in terms of his grappling and all these things of the nature. I think Horiguchi is going to be able to keep this fight very competitive. It will be close, but I do think that Ulanbekov, in terms of his age and also as well as of his stature compared to a guy like Horiguchi, is going to be the deciding factor, with being it very close. I believe it'll be probably a 29-28 decision in this one for Ulanbekov to get a win over Horiguchi. And now moving up the card, and we got Abdul Rahman Yakyayev versus Rafael Cerqueda. This one should be one and done. Very easy, very run of the mill for Yakyayev making his UFC debut. Almost every win that he's had so far in his resume has been coming out by finish, whether that being by knockout or by submission. Setkeda is on a 3-fight losing streak. Last time out, he lost to Julius Walker, where that fight was very fun and very competitive. But Julius Walker just beat him by getting takedowns and hurting Cerqueda often more times than not than what Cerqueda was doing to him. But it was fun. It was fun nonetheless to be able to have that. But I'm going to go with Yakyayev on this one. I think he gets a KO. Cerqueda is not good whatsoever. And moving up the card, we got Bogdan Grad versus Luke Riley. Bogdan Grad, as of right now, is coming off his loss against Muhammad Naev. Not the greatest of losses in the world. I don't rate Namayev or Naimov, however you want to be able to say his name at all. But Bogdan Grad is physical, especially in this featherweight division. He is tough. He has some heart. He has some good power as well. Luke Riley, though, is making his UFC debut, been in Cage Warriors. Every single fight that he has gone and won has been by knockout. So the power in this guy's hands is definitely something to be able to scoff at. And especially with him making his debut in this one, going against a guy like Bogdan Grad, who's not really a can at all, but still is an unranked guy. I can be able to see Bogdan Grad using his experience, using his grappling to his advantage, and trying to be able to out-physical Luke Riley in there and get things done. But I'm going to go with Luke Riley. I'm going to go with the new up-and-coming prospect that they're really trying to be able to push. Bogdan Grad is a really good test. Really, really good test to be able to test yourself in this featherweight division if you want to be able to get into even bigger fights than not just drop down and get to the cans whatsoever. So I'm going to go with Luke Riley by KO on this one. And now moving up the card, we got what I thought this guy was supposed to be suspended by PED usage, but apparently that's not the case. Or maybe I'm talking about the wrong guy. I'm probably talking about Ramazan Temirov. But Alsu Amabayev versus Alex Perez. Alex Perez hasn't fought in about a year and a half ever since his injury in that matchup against Tatsuro Taira, unfortunately for him. And Alsu Amabayev recently just got off that win over Jose Ochoa before he had that loss against Manel Cap. Also, Amabayev, man, really just relied on his grappling-heavy style against Jose Ochoa. Had some moments on the feet, but really doesn't want to be able to keep things on the feet, to be quite honest, because grappling is really his bread and butter. Alex Perez having a long layoff, but is known for being a mainstay really in that flyweight division. Has some power in his hands, has the wrestling background, has some good grappling to be able to showcase and show off. But with that long layoff and all the things coming off with Alex Perez, I'm going to go with Also Amabayev, being the fresher fighter, also being in his prime, and as well just having more momentum going his way. And now moving up the card, and we got Shamil the Blob Gaziev, the fat big tubster going against another fat big tubster, that being Sergey Spivak. Spivak is on a 2-fight losing streak. Last time he lost to Waldo Cortez Acosta. And Shamil Gaziev is the antithesis, where he's on a 2-fight win streak, and last time out he got a nice KO victory over Tommy Pete. But then again, who hasn't knocked out Tommy Pete? I bet a feather on a dustpan could be able to knock off Tommy Pete off his feet, for being quite honest. Spivak has obviously been that type of, if you really want to be able to say test in this heavyweight division, if you can be able to get over him or a guy like Marcin Tybura, really a gatekeeper, that's really the word that I want to be able to say in this heavyweight division, to be able to put yourself over and really see if you're really in the upper echelon of this untalented heavyweight division, to be quite honest. And Spivak has been going against the better competition throughout the entirety of his career, and once Shamil Gaziev decided to be able to get a step up in terms of his career against Jairzinho Rosenstruck, he quit due to being exhausted. He was tired. Big, fat, tubby man, kept getting punched in the face with a jab and a low kick, and he got tired. I mean, what is there to be able to say? I'm going to go with Sergey Spivak on this one. I just trust and believe in him more. I think Shamil should go back to be able to just decimating cans and doing the best thing that he's been doing with that before. But yeah, I'm going to go with Sergey Spivak on this one by probably submission, or maybe another one by exhaustion. That would be fun to be able to see that. And moving up the card, and we got Jack Hermanson dropping down in weight from the middleweight division after getting that nasty KO loss against Gregory Rodriguez. And Maitek Odobai couldn't be able to finally make his way up to the lightweight division anymore and is now making his debut in the higher weight division, that being the welterweight division. So both of these guys are kind of meeting each other in the middle as of right now in a new weight class for each other. Odobai did get a nice win over Tofik Musayev, or that's, I believe, how you pronounce his last name. But I'm going to go Odobai on this one. Even though, yes, I can be able to see Hermanson to be able to just jab and low kick his way to Odobai to a decision, I do think that Odobai, especially being in the welterweight division, just being more big and firm into his actual grasp and not, being so weight drained and cut from having that cut to 155 anymore, being a pretty big dude that he was in that lightweight division. I think he's going to be able to get this grappling off against Hermanson, really get the back take, really get some good control. Hermanson is good with the grappling himself as well, but doesn't have enough pop or enough sting in his shots to be able to really have Odobai worrying. Maybe him dropping down to welterweight, that's something that he can be able to change, but I'm just going to go Odobai by decision on this one. And moving up the card, we got a either certified knockout or another light heavyweight slot fest that's going to go tit for tat for a decision. That being Volkan Ozdemir versus Alonzo Menifield. Ozdemir, last time out, he lost to decision by Carlos Oberg. And if Oberg is not going to knock you out, he's definitely going to beat you by decision. That's really how he's gone so far in this light heavyweight division. And Menifield is on a 2-fight winning streak himself as well. Last time he got a win over Umar Sy, which that one was very uneventful in itself. I'm going to go with Volkan Ozdemir on this one. Menifield has his moments where he can be able to show that he's very competent on the feet and can be able to, use his combinations very effectively and showcase his power and have moments in terms of his grappling as well. But I just think Ozdemir is just better overall, technically and tactically in every single way compared to Menifield. And once Ozdemir touches Menifield, there's times where he gets touched by power and he just kind of is flimsy and wants to frailly just move away. So I'm going to go Volkan Ozdemir by knockout. And moving on now to the co-main event, we got Belal, whatever his name is, Muhammad versus Ian Machado, the cuck, Garry. Tough one. Really to be able to talk about. We got Ian Garry coming off his decision win over Carlos Prates, and Prates has been absolutely starching everybody in that welterweight division that he's been touching the chin of. And he damn near did it to Ian Garry himself in that 5th round, but Ian Garry, just by a sliver, just by a hair, was able to get away from the destructive path and left hand of Carlos Prates, very luckily for himself as well, because in those first 3 rounds, Ian Garry was pretty much just doing whatever he wanted to be able to do against Carlos Prates on the feet. Really had him stunted, couldn't be able to get into his offense, and Ian Garry with the lateral movement, using the jab, staying busy with the kicks, really just pounding that heavy, hard kick to Prates' side, just really nullifying that left hand as much as he can be able to do, was very effective. I thought that this fight was going to be a 5-round matchup. I think it would have been a little bit more intriguing as a 5-round matchup, but this one being 3 rounds, I think it favors Ian Garry a little bit more. And you have Belal Muhammad, man. Shout out to Belal, or whatever his name is. Really just having that incredible win streak that he was having, despite it not being entertaining whatsoever. The last fight that he did have was very entertaining because he went really in a war of attrition against JDM, where on the feet he was showcasing his Canelo hands. And while he was showcasing it and was getting a lot of shots off and doing a lot of damage to JDM, he definitely was getting outstruck on the feet a lot. And really with the takedowns and the grappling and the wrestling as well, I don't think that Belal is going to be able to implement that same type of thing against Ian Garry. Ian Garry been working a lot with guys in Shoot the Books and Charles Oliveira and really working hard on his BJJ, getting in good work and showcasing that against Shavkat Rakhmonov, who really was in a lot of trouble against Ian Garry in that matchup against each other. So I think that kind of negates it. And I think that if it does stay on the feet, the one thing that I can give a lot of credit to Belal Muhammad is that he works very hard. Especially on the striking and especially with his boxing and his kicks. It is technically sound. it is fundamentally good, but he's not a natural striker. He just really works hard to it and has put his grind to the nose and really done a lot of work with it. But naturally, it isn't as fluid and it doesn't work as well as it does against guys like an Ian Garry, like a JDM. If he were to be able to get matched up against guys like Carlos Prates, guys like Michael Morales, I think that he would have a lot of issues on the feet against these guys. And it being 3 rounds, maybe Belal can be able to get a takedown, smudge his way to be able to get a round in and bank that one in and potentially just want to keep things on the feet in the next round, keep it very close and edge out a 29-28 decision over Ian Garry. But a lot of these guys, well, not a lot of these guys, but both of these guys haven't seen a 3 round fight in quite some time. So this is going to be very interesting how they come in with their game plans and them starting off a lot faster in this matchup between these two guys. I'm going to go with Ian Garry, though. If and definitely not by knockout. I think that Ian Garry is probably going to win this one by decision, probably 30-27 on the feet. I think he keeps things on the feet. I think he keeps things in his range. I think he keeps Belal Muhammad guessing a lot and missing a lot as well as that. With Belal, listen, I don't think he's going to get knocked out because if JDM can be able to knock out, I don't think Ian Garry is going to be able to knock him out. The chin of Belal Muhammad was definitely tested, and it was shown that there is a chin there. And for you to be able to crack him with something hard, you definitely got to hit him with something very, very heavy, probably like a head kick, and maybe that'll probably get the job done. But if Ian Garry does come out, and if he does get a knockout, or if he does have an incredibly impressive performance against Belal Muhammad, I think we're talking about him potentially getting that title matchup against Islam Makhachev, probably next up for him. And now moving on to the main event, and we got Arman Tsarukyan finally making his return to the octagon versus Dan Hooker. A lot of bad blood between these two guys. They've been talking a lot of trash on social media. And they've been going back and forth, really just giving it to each other. And finally, we're going to be able to see these guys face off and really get into heated exchanges on the feet, hopefully. But Arman Tsarukyan hasn't fought in about, a year and a half, or probably even a lot longer than that. Last time he got a split decision win over Charles Oliveira, which I thought Charles won, if I'm being quite honest. But they did give the decided fair edge to Arman Tsarukyan. And with that, Arman hasn't fought since then. He was matched up against Islam and was supposed to match up against him earlier this year in January. But, due to a lot of factors, him saying that it was his back, a lot of people saying that it was the weight cut that he couldn't make in time, he pulled out of the fight literally the day before, and it was just in a big fiasco with him being the true number one contender in this lightweight division, but obviously not getting that next title shot next up with pulling that prank that he obviously did with the UFC, and obviously Dana and those boys and the higher ups were not liking that whatsoever. With his activity in the octagon, he has been very active in terms of the grappling game. He's had like 3 submission or grappling matchups that he's had so far, I think, this year, that he's gotten wins all over. And, going against Benson Henderson, I think Patricky Pitbull, there's another guy that he also got into there within the grappling, and he's won all of them. And Dan Hooker himself as well, coming off that split decision win over Mateusz Gamrot about a year out. He was supposed to get matched up against Justin Gaethje in that Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez matchup in Miami, where Justin Gaethje ended up facing off against Rafael Fiziev again due to a hand injury. Dan Hooker, and obviously a lot of other injuries that he's been dealing with beforehand, has been having his career on derail mode, unfortunately for him. This matchup, I think, is pretty easy to be able to break down. While Dan Hooker has showed off pretty good takedown defense, and obviously those guys in City Kickboxing has been working tirelessly with their takedown defense and wanting to be able to keep things on the feet. I mean, yes, Gamrot is a very good wrestler, but we did show that there is levels to the wrestling game and the smudge wrestling style that Gamrot has. And while it wasn't as effective against Oliveira, you can be able to see that with Oliveira, Arman Tsarukyan was giving him a lot of issues, similar like to what Islam Makhachev was doing against Oliveira. So there's quite similarities with that, but with working with the takedown defense for quite some time now, I do think that Dan Hooker is very prepared for the moments that he is, and if things do stay on the feet, I definitely do favor Dan Hooker for sure. He's a lot more wilder. He's a lot more better. He's been tested with his chin. And even with his chin being cracked multiple times by a lot of powerful more guys, I don't think Arman definitely has that suited up for him to be able to get things done on the feet whatsoever against a guy like Dan Hooker. But I do think that Arman Tsarukyan, with leveling up his grappling, having all those grappling matches and submissions as well, I just think that he's going to be able to just dominate Dan Hooker on the ground and get things done pretty quickly. I think this is done by either the second or third round. I'm going to go with Arman Tsarukyan by submission over Dan Hooker. And while there might be moments of entertainment here and there, and hopefully this could be a back and forth 5 round war, that's what I'm really hoping that is going to be. But realistically, I do see Arman Tsarukyan just being very dominant on the ground and just showing levels in terms of the grappling and wrestling and coming out on top on this one. Like this video if you obviously like this video. Comment your opinions on what you think is going to go down in this Qatar card. These matchup, especially this main card, is actually pretty good and pretty entertaining, and how things are going to be able to match up within each other with these guys. And really subscribe. If you're here for a reason. You love this content. You need this content. You want this content to be in there forever. And I thank you guys for watching again. And peace.